Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Best Day Ever podcast. I got another guest on the show, and her name is Julianna Balmer. You want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone.
In case you guys did not know, today is the best day ever, not just because we got Jules on the show, but because today is the only day we have. Yesterday is gone, and we're not guaranteed tomorrow, so that makes today the best day ever. So we have a whole series of just questions, discussions. We're just gonna let this time flow, but I'm just so excited to have Julianna on, and we're gonna dive into her story and the person that she is, and just like how amazing, like I hope you guys get to see, I know you guys will just be able to get to see how amazing Julianna is, and just like her special soul for the Lord and for people and for life. And we're just gonna jump right in. Let's just jump into it.
Love the intro.
Yes,
Thanks, girlie.
of course. So there's so many things. I feel like you're part of so many things in life. Like you have so many different roles, like with your career, with ministry, and just life in general. So before we dive into all that, we're gonna start off with the story of how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I guess you could start off with your current role, like your current job right now, because that can transition to actually how we ended up meeting.
Yeah. This is like a quick bio, maybe.
Yeah.
Who am I? Okay. So I am a high school teacher. I teach at a local high school. I teach 10th and 12th grade. And I've been doing that since 2019. So in the next 2 weeks, I'm about to start my 5th year.
That's crazy.
Just crazy. Yeah.
I feel like you're like literally my age.
Yeah. A little older, maybe.
That's so cool.
I feel like it's just like
you have
it's gone so quickly.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, I'm so ready though. I'm excited.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Aw, that's so good. So as Julianna was having her time teaching at a local high school, about that same time I started doing ministry with a group called Young Life. And also I want to say congrats on the 5 years. That just came out right after.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks.
that's like so cool. But as I was leading a local ministry called Young Life, around the same time, Julianna got a word. Like actually, how did you end up entering Young Life? Because that is how we met, through leading Young Life ministry together.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually had not heard about Young Life until I was probably like sophomore or junior year of college. I went to Westchester University. And another student in my class, she had a Young Life backpack. And so I wound up looking up the ministry because I was like, what is Young Life? And realized it was a ministry for high schoolers. And so because I knew I was going into education, I was actually praying by the time when I was in college, I was praying about what it would look like if I were ever to step into something like Young Life. And then start my first year at school, and then it was not the right year. Like everything happened with like COVID and stuff, so it just wasn't a good time to start.
Okay.
But someone else at school had been serving in Young Life, so I actually wound up talking with her about what it looked like to be involved, what the commitment was like, and even just like was it kind of awkward, like being at school but also leading the same kids who were at that school. I just didn't know what that would look like for me as a teacher.
Yeah.
But there were just so many different like obvious things that I saw God was doing to put me in the right position and preparation to lead. As well as still be a teacher.
Yeah.
And then I remember meeting you. Okay?
Oh,
it was like early September. Yeah, early September. We were on a porch, and I met you, and I instantly I was like, oh my goodness, she is so sunny. I was like, wow,
so sunny.
She's so sunny. She's always smiling. And I was like, wow, like I almost felt like, oh my gosh, like am I like can I be in this presence? Like I don't know. I was like, whoa.
Oh my gosh.
No, but like
so
I knew from the first night of being with Young Life and just like kind of like introing, I guess, into it. I was like, yes, like this is where I knew I needed to be and where God had prepped my heart to be at the time.
Oh my gosh, that is so sweet.
That was like, I think that was 2021.
Yeah.
Right? Because we lived for a year together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, before I headed off.
I know.
But yeah, that is so cool. So I just want to go back. So you literally saw in a backpack.
Yeah.
Young Life.
Funny.
And then you just knew like that it had to do with the ministry?
Just like the Young Life. I feel like that's not just a typical like
that's so
branding.
Cool. So
you know
like
what I mean?
You knew. Like you kinda like it was like it kinda triggered you to look it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And then so how many years went by from your junior year of college to the time that you got placed as a leader?
It was about like 3.5, 4 years roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that just stuck out to me what you said, like God is like preparing you.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy when you have something like that like stick in your brain.
Yeah.
Because like how could those two words, like how could that like stay in your brain for all that time? Like, clearly it's so evident. Like you're meant to be part of Young Life and like to like use Young Life as a tool, like a platform for ministry to share Jesus. Like that is so cool.
Yeah.
And like that is definitely evidence of God like having a plan for you. Like during
just planting that seed of like, think about this, pray over it, and then knowing he would just bring me to that. And just like it's almost so like he needed to like start way back then so I could like warm up to the idea, but also just know my heart the preparation that would be needed to step into that space. Because I know, like, I mean, you would know from serving with Young Life, like, it's a lot. It's a huge investment. It is. It's a lot of pouring out. And I would definitely say, like, we're poured into as well. Yeah. But just, like, balancing Young Life with the rest of life in general, is just a lot there. And so, for me, like, I knew that God needed to put my heart in a place where I could do that and do it well, so that I could really be able to invest in the people that I was leading.
Wow, that is so amazing. And like just by you talking, and now that I can like understand even more, like the story about how you even ended up in the position of leading, like it just shows like your faithfulness and trust to God, because it really is such a big commitment. And you could have used all those reasons to be like, no, I can't. But you literally used like all those things to turn towards like God's open door and like His open opportunity. And now here you are going into year 3.
I know, year 3 leading. Which is crazy. I feel like I've finally gotten the hang of it. Went to camp for a second time. I'm like, I know a bunch of the people I'm leading now. So I was like, I've seen people like graduate, and being able to like saying goodbye to them is so hard but so sweet, because I'm like, wow, like seeing what we as a team have been able to pour into them, and then seeing them send off, and like God's gonna do wonderful things through them. Like that's a huge, I feel like, a treasure and a gift of being with Young Life. And now I'm like, I get to do it all over again this year.
Cool. And it really is, like, when you look at it, it's like the school year, but it's not just like another year goes by, because every year looks so different. It's like you said, people do leave, but get like the new fruit, like this new fresh group of like kids who are just like hungry to know about Jesus, but then they eventually like go, and then they become like the little leaders. Like, it's so cool. And you definitely it's a blessing for sure, like being able to witness that. That's so cool. And I do have a question. How was that when you started to become a leader and then you were in school? Honestly, like with the kids?
Okay, so like I prayed a lot about it, because I knew for me, like, there's a professional line in the sense of like I'm a teacher, but then being at Young Life, like it's not really professional. It's more of like it's relational, and it is very casual. And so I definitely had a mental switch of like having to figure out, when I'm with kids in a school setting, like I'm the teacher in a way, so there's that professional line, but then when I'm with them, when I'm leading, like that is like I'm one of them, like I'm learning and growing alongside them, and that's such a different mind switch for me. So I think that took me it took me a little bit. Honestly, I think I was fearful of kids seeing me still as a teacher within the Young Life space, and because of that, not wanting to get close to me.
Gotcha.
Because I mean, it makes sense. Like, that can be an awkward thing.
Because that's how they see you in school. So they almost have to have their own mind switch, like the mental shift as well in Young Life.
So I prayed so much about that. But honestly, probably within like the first month or 2, I could see that it wasn't going to be an issue. And I mean, definitely God working in their hearts and in my heart to be able to have us all come to that place of just acknowledging, like, when she's here, she's not a teacher. It's like she's just one of us. And I think like over time too, that it's just gotten sweeter. I have like this year, so I'll start year 5 teaching. I have so many Young Life kids in my classes, and I love it. So cool. Because I know them, I have a relationship with them already, and it's sweeter and it's different in the classroom, of course. But it's sweet to be able to know them as students, but then also to be known just as kids and like for who they are. And then I think they get to know me better too because of that. And I really appreciate that, because then I think there's so much more trust and more opportunity then. So it's been really funny and just like different. Like it's kind of an anomaly. I don't really feel like a lot of Young Life leaders are in that sort of position. So it's definitely been different, but I feel like it's been something that God has really cultivated and has really helped me guard well in a healthy way, so that I can be present at school and be a teacher, but then be at Young Life and be present as a leader. And I don't feel like there has been any like issue or barrier because of like because just the way He's done that. So
and that's such like an answered prayer. Like, that's so good.
So much about that.
Wow. And what also just stuck out to me is like in the mindset of the students. Like you probably don't even realize how much of an impact like your presence is being in a school, because like you said, not many people are present in school as a young life leader.
Yeah.
But it's like, even though like you have like the Monday nights and the Wednesday nights, like to be like in that atmosphere, because young life really does just it just like brings us like safety net.
Yeah.
Like it's like the
Like
safe
you're
place
known.
for kids.
You're
yeah,
welcomed.
you're known,
Yeah.
you're seen. But it's so cool that God placed you at that time, or at this time, to be a leader, and then you get to be present in school.
Yeah.
Because you get to be like that like reminder and like that presence for them, even if they don't even have a single class with you, they like know you're in the halls, like they know you're in the school, and they can just like say hi, and it's just like probably so refreshing, like for them, like during their school day.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. So
no, I've had so
cool.
many moments of that where like I'll see someone who I don't teach coming up to me and saying hi, or someone coming up to me and letting me know like they're not having a great day because of XYZ. And it's so cool, like I can, because of the relationship that I have with them at Young Life, I can have an honest moment with them in that vulnerability that they've shared with me. Yeah. And it's more than just like, oh, I hope you're doing okay. Like, okay, like, have a good day. But like, I can be honest and say like, oh man, like, I'm sorry you're not doing well. Like, I'll be praying for you. Yeah. Something like just a little thing of like, they know that someone at school genuinely cares about them. Yes. And I would say like every teacher cares. Yes. But it's a different it's a human investment as opposed to just like a student investment. It's a whole nother layer, I think, that it has been a huge gift. And I didn't see teaching being as sweet as it is, but I think it's sweeter because of being a young leader. That is so cool. Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm grateful. Yeah, I love it so much. Oh my goodness. Well, I just wanted to get to my notes really quick because I just had some questions. My first question was, so as I was forming these, I was like, wow, like there's just so much to know about Julianna. Because like, yes, we've been in each other's life for, I think it's been only 2 years. Like this September would be 2 years. It would be 3 years. Because we led for a year. Yeah. And then you were away. For a year. So but, I guess we should say we're starting year 3. Yes. Let's say that. Yeah, okay. That makes more sense. Year 3. But I just been able to like watch you like as your co-leader and as a friend, and one of the things that I just always admired about you is just like I feel like you have this like sound spirit, like it's like unshakable, and it's like you're so like gentle and loving, but like you really do just give truth. And like I feel like God, that's not like hard. Like some people, like that's such a hard thing. That's such like a hard balance. Like some people can be very like gentle, but then they're not actually helping people bring them back to the Lord. Like if they're going down like a wrong path. But then some people can also be like too, like they don't share Jesus in the way that like Jesus is actually like depicted. Yeah. It's like, and I just feel like you are just like so gentle, and you just have like this sound like this like firm spirit, like you just know, like it's like you know who God is, you know who He is in your life, and it's unshakable. Like no matter what life goes, like no matter what life brings, like you know, like your firm foundation is in the Lord. And then I've been able to see you like walk that out as a leader. Like every time you'd give a club talk, I was like, like I'm learning so much right now. I'm like you're literally sharing so much about like just like this faith and speaking to me. I'm like you just like are so good. So that I'm sure you're an amazing teacher, because I feel like you just are really good at like making things make sense. So like so it's such a blessing that Young Life gets to have you in the community, and I can't wait for all the fruit that is to continue to come as God allowing you to be that person to be there and be present in all these kids' lives. So that is so cool. But one of the things I had to ask is, how did you come to know the Lord? Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, so like we'll do like a quick background and then to my faith. So I'm adopted. I am one of 6 kids. I'm number 4 in the lineup. I was adopted when I was 3 from China, and I was adopted into a believing home. So my parents and my siblings, we all grew up in a believing home, and that meant like we would go to church, and my parents were very involved in ministry. I was in Sunday school. I was in different like kid programs growing up. So I grew up surrounded by God and the Word and what it looked like to have a relationship with God, because I saw that as examples in my life. So that was obviously like a big catalyst, I would say. When I was 8, I made the choice to personally accept Jesus as my Lord and
Wow.
Savior. But I would say, like, I didn't start walking in it for myself until I was 13.
Yeah.
And the reason that happened at 13 was because I went on a mission trip to China to teach English as a second language. And that was my first time in a different country and my first time seeing God differently, because China is very hostile to God. And so for me, as someone who had professed a faith in Jesus, now going to a country where that was very looked down upon, but yet still wanting to carry that for myself, it really challenged me and made me think about, like, why am I believing this? And is this like worth it?
Yeah.
And I came back from that trip. I remember crying on the trip because I was like, oh my goodness, like it made such a difference in me.
Yeah.
And I came back from that trip and I felt like God had really just really stoked the flame of what it meant to be a believer for him. And from there I really committed to living that out, because I saw like what the challenge was of like not just saying but truly living out that faith, and in a way where it wasn't just, you know, like, oh, happy me, it's, you know, getting what I want out of it, but like it doesn't matter in what season of life or where I am, but that this faith is a constant in my life because of God, of who God is for me. And so like I think that was really helpful in solidifying God in my life, and then that really propelled my faith into deeper learning.
Wow, that is so cool, and it's so like special and unique that specifically you got to go back to China, and it's like what like when you just look at that, it's like that is literally evidence of God, like in your life, that like you're going back and you're getting to like visit like this like country, and you're carrying like the spirit of the Lord with you, and I'm sure like all the people that you got to be with, like they got to get a touch of Jesus like by you being there. But what part about it, like being there, was like that solidifying, like what was it about being there? Was just because of the way that they view God was so like that they like don't even, like most of them probably don't, like was it that factor, or was it like just like knowing like how much people respond to the gospel? Like what like factor of it was like that solidifying thing for you?
Yeah. So I remember, it was the moment that I cried. So I cried because I couldn't say Jesus' name out loud. We were going over as a team to teach English. So our tent making skill, or the vehicle for why we were going, was English. So that they wouldn't have known outright that we were believers, if that makes sense. And so, and we also had to be careful so that we wouldn't get kicked out. Yeah. So, we wouldn't talk about God just as normally as, you and I. That just wouldn't be normal. And so for me, I couldn't say Jesus, or I couldn't say, I couldn't pray in public. I wasn't, we didn't go to church while we were there because we couldn't. It's or I couldn't, read my Bible wherever I wanted. And so, for me, I think realizing what a privilege it was for me to be in America and growing up in a believing home, but then to have a very public faith that would not be challenged anyway, that having that be challenged and also have in a way hidden while I was in China, it made me realize the sacrifice that it is for a believer to truly be living out faith. It's not this easy rodeo. It's a lot harder than people make it out to be. And that was huge. I read a lot of scripture and had heard a lot of different stories of people who had faiths like that, where they had to keep it more under wraps, but it was still explosive in the way that God used it. So that was big for me. I was like, whoa, the fact that I couldn't say Jesus' name as publicly as I wanted, it made me cry, because I was like, whoa, this is really real. You know, he's that powerful, and I have in me this desire, this urge to make him known. And yet I have to be careful about it, or wise in the way that I'm doing that. So I was like, wow, this is a real thing.
I when you were saying that to me, you're explaining the fact you could not pray, you could not even say his name, that to me is so unreal to the world that I live in and what I experience. But that is happening today, right now.
So many places.
So many places. And we as Americans, us living here, we don't get that taste of faith. We don't get that side of our walk with God in daily life, of really acknowledging what a privilege it is to know him.
Exactly.
We know Jesus, I know his name.
Right.
I can scream it. I'm just trying to process what my life would look like. I'm I'd be hiding in a bathroom. I don't know. I'm
right,
what would I do? And then it's just so cool, because then I'm then thinking about the people who are living in like the places where you can't like profess your faith. Like you can't like you can't talk about Jesus. Like I'm like
and they're still so joyful, and
Yeah.
they're still so faithful to God. And I would say like churches around the world where churches are like that, where they have to be like more careful.
Yeah.
They're so on fire for him.
True.
It's like you would never know that they're being persecuted.
That's
you know,
so
it's
true.
crazy to see the way that God is moving there.
Yeah, because it's like what you said, like just what you experienced there, it like solidifies for you like what this faith is, like who God is.
Exactly.
To you. So that is so good, and like I never knew that part of your testimony. That's wild.
I know, right?
But it's so cool. You were there at 13.
13.
It was so young to
I know,
like have your eyes be open.
Like that was definitely God for sure. He knew I needed it then.
Whoa. Oh, that's so good. That is so, so good. So before we jump into the next question, I guess we're gonna get deep real quick. But you were just saying like you know who God is to you, and so one of the questions I have is like, who is God to you?
That's a good question. That's funny. I actually like that because a lot of people say like I know who God is, but like then who is he? You know, like that's a good question.
And it's like, who is he to you?
To me, yeah. Okay, so like so many things. I would say like the things that come to my mind first are that God is tender, that God is a pursuer, and that he is faithful. Those are I think the three biggest things I've been learning more recently in my life. And that he's a loving father who wants the very best for me, even if that means that the hardships and things in my life are going to shape me to be that better person and that better creation that he's created me to be.
That's so good. Whoa. Run that back. Like, okay, you literally just said you're like the things that you've gone through, like the trials and the hardships, if those are what you have to go through in order for him to shape you who you're meant to be, like it's like you know that he has like your like his best for you. So it's like
he's faithful in that.
He is faithful in that.
And I would say like he's so tender in that process. I think sometimes like I know like going through hardship and trials, like we can get stuck right in that part, I guess that spot of hardship. And it's hard to see anything beyond that. But for me, having a relationship with God has really taught me that in that process of hardship, that the tenderness of God reaches out to me, and it's like he's pursuing with that tenderness to draw me to a place where even though I'm going through something hard, he can still say like I'm here and I'm your father, and I'm going to love you well through this and bring you to be a better person who you are by the other side.
So true. That's so good.
And it's hard. I don't remember it. But by the end of things, I have come to understand that.
Wow. I love that. So, I'm just like thinking about that because I feel like what you said, like just like experiencing like his tenderness, like how do you get to experience that when life is so cheery and you have nothing, like you're just staying in your comfort zone, like you're not having a need to like reach out and cry out to God. Like it's harder for you to really experience that like lovingness and that care and that comfort of God, like being your provider when you're not going through a hard time. And like I'm not saying like make sure you're always in like discomfort to like always know God's near, because like you can also experience his like his love and like just joy of the day, like in the joy of the day. But like when you are going through hard times, God's presence is that like so it's just so real. Like, it just becomes so real in your life when you're going through a hard time. So that's like encouraging for someone if they are going through a hard time, like use that as an opportunity to experience God's goodness and like his love, because like God is the true and the ultimate light of our life. So this is like your time to have open eyes and see that. So I liked what you said a lot. That was so good. Oh, so good. And what were you said? Maybe we'll run it back. It was like 3 things you said. His tenderness. His
faithfulness.
Oh,
and that he pursues.
Yes. So good. Tenderness, his faithfulness, and how he pursues you. Love it. Love it. Love it. So a fun question is, how would you describe yourself in one word?
Oh my goodness. In one word?
Yeah. There's so many things.
That is so hard.
Well, you can add to it because I'm going to ask you and why.
Okay. I would say I'm steadfast. I've heard people describe me as that.
Yeah. I see that for sure.
Okay, and then the why.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like, the things that I have in my life, I try to be really steadfast on them, and steadfast meaning, like, I try to stick to them and try to see them through and try to try to do those things well and to be faithful in those things. I can get really focused on something because I want to make sure that I'm doing it to the best of my ability and to the excellence that I can give it.
Yeah.
I think that can be my downfall sometimes, for sure. But my nature, I would say, is steadfast. Like, I'm pretty consistent in who I am as a human being, who I am in my different spheres of life.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you could be here with me now and then in 5 years see me again. And it'd probably not be much different just because, like, I mean, life will happen different. I'll have learned so much more, but I think just, like, my character doesn't change much. I'm not easily influenced, I would say. Like, that's never been something that I've had to struggle with. And for sure, it's God and the way He's created me and my personality and the way that He's driven me in life. But I've not been someone who has ever, like, needed to explore so many different things in order to figure out who I am. I think because of the identity that Christ has given me, that He's allowed me to be steadfast and confident in that.
That is so encouraging for me to hear, because I've seen you walk it out. Like, I see you walk that out. Like, I see you, like, walking out that steadfast, just, like, knowingness of what God has for you, like, who He's called you to be, and then how that has played out in, like, all the different factors of your life. And it truly is, like, in the world we live in where everything's going, moving around, like, fast-paced, like, we think that we find our identity in the things that are, like, new and moving and, like, just always switching up. But, like, if that is the way that you're going, it's literally just gonna lead you, like, so run out and dry, probably going back to the place that you were from the very beginning, like, to know, like, because, like, that's, like, who you were all along. And it's like you never actually had to go to all these different things. Like, God's calling for you and, like, His love for you and His authority, like, over you, like, in your life, just, like, simply being a child of God, like, has been there. Like, it's, like, has never changed. And, like, that's, like, the simple fact. And so, I definitely see that. Like, you're totally, like, steadfast, like, woman of the Lord. And so that is so cool. And so, I see you walk that out. Like, as I testify that this is true, because I see her walking this out. Okay, so what is one thing that people would not know or suspect about you?
That's good. Okay, we're gonna go deep here, because I think it's the only way to, like, fully answer this question. I would say that people probably wouldn't guess or suspect that I struggle with feeling like I'm worthy. That's, like, because, again, I think going back to the idea of being steadfast, like, I think a steadfast personality can make it seem like you're confident in who you are, and to an outside person, like, they might say, like, oh, she's really confident, she knows who she is. But, like, I know, like, growing up my whole entire life, and even now, like, as I'm learning about it more, but I've definitely struggled with feeling worthy, and, like, worthy in the sense of, like, worthy of God and the love that He's given me, or worthy of people and their time, and even, like, if someone wants to spend time with me, I always feel, like, guilty about it, because I'm like, oh, no, like, am I taking up too much of their time? Is this obligation, or do they really want to spend time with me? Like, I'll get into that mindset of feeling insecure about my worth and what I can, like, give to people. That's been, like, the hardest thing I've learned, for sure, probably within the past couple of years even. But I have found that being more honest and vulnerable about that part of my life, so that's not really something that people have to, like, not suspect. I feel like kind of, like, bringing that to light has actually given me a lot of freedom, because then it's not having power over me. Do you know what I mean? Like, like, bring it to light.
Bravo. You guys don't know, but my camera just died, so we're just replaying it back. Okay. But no, it's so good. Like, all the things you just mentioned, about just, like, our own personal, like insecurities, or, like, because we all carry certain things like that. And I think, honestly, worth and, like, identity and, like, those things, like, of course, like, we know our identity, but it's, like, factors like that, I think, they can be so common for us as believers to face. And, like you said, like, it's not that it, like, you don't, like, question, like, you know, like, where your identity is found in. Like, it's literally found in being a child of God, and, like, you know, like who God is, like he's like your Lord and Savior. But then as we get into like bringing it back down to earth and walking out our daily life, walking out daily relationships, then it just comes into play all the things of like the past and how they may influence the way that we think when we form new relationships. And like there's so many things that just come out of honestly like worth. And like I know because like that definitely is something I find myself even having thoughts with, like and there is so much freedom just by talking about it and acknowledging like, hey, like literally I still got these things like I'm working on, I'm working
We're
through.
Human.
Yeah,
it's okay to
like,
acknowledge that.
And I know that like people tuning in, people listening will like absolutely be able to relate. So I really appreciate you being vulnerable and just sharing that. And it is cool that God is like walking you through that and like knowing that all those are lies because it's not true.
Right.
Like literally, like the enemy wants to just keep us from people, but the reality is like you are such a joy, Julianna, and like anyone that I've known that has met you like has only ever just felt like that way about you, that like you're just like this like comfort, like you just like bring that spirit, like I think it flows out of that like steadfast spirit, like that's like what I feel like it literally is flowing from, like that's what God has given you, it's just that like spirit. So it's like when people are around you, like it just like comes out of you, like and like people can just like chill, like you're someone that like anyone can just like be with and just be completely free, and who they are. And so, and it's crazy because even if we like have all these thoughts in our heads and like we're thinking this way, like the reality is like what is shown on the outside, like what is actually displayed can be so different than what's actually going on in here.
Exactly.
And sometimes like we need people to tell us who we are, like just remind us of who we are, like in the Lord, because then you're like, oh wow, like that, like all the things I was thinking, it's not even true. Yeah. So that's so good. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. Another thing I want to ask you is, this is like a two-part question. Okay. If you could describe the last season you're in, because the reason I ask this is because we're always in like certain seasons of life. So do you feel like you're in a new season, and if so, how would you describe like the last season you were in and who God was for you in that season versus like this next season?
And who God is.
That's like, that makes sense. That's like a 5-part question.
It is. Okay.
Okay, I'll start again. Okay, first, do you feel like you're entering a new season of life? Or like what season of life do you feel like you're in right now?
Right now, I feel like I am in a season of. Okay, I've been like, it's funny. Actually, we were talking about butterflies earlier, so it's actually coming back. I feel like if we're looking at the stage of a butterfly right now, I feel like I'm in my little chrysalis. Okay, so I feel like I'm in a place of safety with God. I'm in a place where I am feeling a lot of His healing and a lot of His like personal care for me, where He's really ministering to parts of my heart that needed a lot of reworking. And so I feel like He's got me in a place where He's doing so much in me, but so many like good and healthy things. So I don't know if that's like total like renewal per se, but I'm in that process. I feel like of Him doing that for me.
That's so good, and that's so sweet.
It is.
And like
it's encouraging.
It's cool because like I often feel like we like have this place that we're like, we know we want to be, we know like where God's calling us, but if we don't have like time to even acknowledge that there's something in us that needs to like kind of get healed, because there always is like something in us that like God can really be working on like in our hearts. So it's like, that's why I just say like we're always in a season of life, because like what you're going through now will always actually be used to bring you to the next place. And even if that is just like this time of like God like just opening up your eyes, or opening up like the eyes of your heart to like see like who you truly are, like healing. That's so good. I love that. So you feel like you're in this little chrysalis, and do you feel like this next season of life like is this time of like healing for you, or do you feel like things are like, is there any changes, or like do you have like any changes you're feeling? I'm getting so wordy. We're just gonna end that question. We're gonna move to the next one. We're going to the next one.
We brought the butterflies in. That's all that matters.
We tried the butterflies. Butterfly. moving on. Anyway,
This is the realness of the podcast, so
yes,
we're glad you're here.
We're keeping it real around here.
You should comment a butterfly if you hit this far.
Please.
And subscribe for that, okay? Please.
Also, comment a way that you would have formed that question. Oh my goodness. Okay. Whoo. Alrighty. Okay, so I have an interesting fact to share about you guys about Julianna.
Ooh.
Julianna, not only did I find out that she paints today, but Julianna has an Instagram account. It is called Testify to the number 2. Love. Testify to love. And I was doing some scrolling on it and I came across some of your posts that you had written, and it goes back to like 2020. Like you were like writing, and what it is, it's like I almost feel like they're like love letters of your heart to God. Like that's just like when I was like looking at it, I feel like you're just like pouring out your heart, but like through poetry. And I'm like, these are so good. So I had one. I'm gonna bring back a little memory for you.
Oh my gosh.
Let me see if I can find it. I took a screenshot and I just wanted to read it for you guys. So you wrote this. It was March 5th, 2021. It says, something is happening, and today I feel it. Small and steady, persistently growing, forming and poking through the soil into bloom. It's a process I know takes time and effort and space, but it's happening, and for that I'm living, breathing, and hoping expectantly.
That's so funny because we just had this like seasons question that actually describes the season so well.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Is so funny.
And of all the ones, like I just was like, I want to like I was like looking at them and I was like, I really want to I want to poke Julie about this. Like I want to poke her about what was her heart. Do you remember? Like what was your heart at the time you were writing that?
Yeah. So I'll caveat by saying that all the poetry I write and the poetry that I share, it really does stem from my conversations with God. And sometimes that's conversations with God as I talk with other people or as I'm just talking with him myself. But he'll give me like little one-liners, I guess, that I turn into poetry as I process the things that he's trying to share with me.
Wow.
And so that's where my poems come from. And so like that first section, something is happening and today I feel it. I remember writing that in a season where it was 2021. So it was a season where I felt like I was getting out of a funk and finding more clarity in myself, but even just in the world around me and understanding it a bit better. And so it's metaphorically, because I'm an English teacher, metaphorically. So something is happening and today I feel it was a line that I wrote that for me, I felt like metaphorically, it was in my mind when I wrote that, I was picturing the idea of like almost like a little like plant just poking through the soil and forming. And just a little like tiniest tip of green, like not that like anybody else would notice it, but I feel like for the person who is going through that process of like poking up into like a bloom, like they would know that that's happening for them.
That's so good.
So it's just like it's just a little something is happening for that specific person. And so I guess I was really me in that season of like this was something that I knew was happening within me that maybe other people looking at me probably wouldn't have guessed or known, and not that I don't know if I would have necessarily communicated that, but I knew that it was still something in me.
But you knew it's like, okay, like there's something, this is like a fresh spirit, like it's like something new it had been planted, like God has done the planting. But think about it, like how much work it takes to get to that point of even being able to like sprout. Like there was so much like patience and waiting,
all the preparation,
and like it's like the original like planting of the seed, and like it was just like encouraging for me because like I'm like I definitely relate to that today, so that's why I was like, oh, I want to ask her about this because I'm like, speak to me.
I love that.
Speak to Julianna. So that's cool. Like I love that. And so do you feel like poetry is something, do you see yourself like still doing that today? Like it's like part of your way that you express and
it's definitely faith. Definitely the way that I would say that is like the most creative way that I express my faith. I would say too that it is for me the most personal way that I feel like I can connect with God and talk with him and verbalize with him the things that I'm thinking. Like I'm writing in general, like I'm always journaling, and I'll like talk to him like I guess, vocally.
Mm-hmm.
But when I write things out, because it's before me, I can really look at it and then see. It's almost like I'm seeing the visualization of what he's doing in my life, and that's
Wow.
like it's evidence right there
Yeah.
of things that he's doing in my heart.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like my sister, for instance, will read my poetry and it doesn't make any sense to her, and she's like, "What does that even mean? I don't know." And then I'm like looking, I'm like, "Oh, thanks so much," because it's just so much of me I'm putting out there.
Yeah, like, this is coming from my heart.
Yeah, it's a lot of
this
me.
is from the, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I know you mean that. And, like, words really do. Like, they can carry, like, so much.
Yeah.
They can carry, like, so much, like, emotion, like, behind, like, a single word. Like, a single sentence can, like, mean so many things.
Yes.
Like, behind, like, the way you, like, chose, like, a certain word over
Exactly.
another word. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creativity in that.
Yes.
And I feel like there's intentionality. Like, it forces me to be intentional.
Yeah.
Because there are, like, a lot of times when I'm talking with a person or talking with God, I can just say things, but not really have thought through them.
Yeah.
So, like, my poetry, for sure, like, I mean, I have a lot of drafts, per se, where I'll just get something out, but then I go back and revisit it, and I say, think about, what does this really mean to me? And does this reflect the relationship that I have with God? Like, I feel like that is that revision process of me really being intentional about the words, and even just, like, the cadence and way that things flow within my poetry.
Yeah.
That really speaks to me a lot of, like, the relationship that I have with God and the intentionality that I want to put into that, so that it's not just like a thing in my life, but it really is the center of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Guys, this girl is so good. I love that. Okay, so one of my final questions for you of today is, well, first, how would you encourage someone who is in a season of like feeling like they've known God? Because we have like all different types of listeners. Like we have people who are like walking out in faith, people who are like so new, but I feel like it's really common, like for most believers, even if they've known God, like they haven't really like known him deeply and intimately.
Yeah.
It's like I'm walking, like I know God, but it's like, how would you encourage someone to take a step to like dig deeper and like what do you do in your life besides like praying and reading that kind of like makes God real to you to want to discover more about him?
That's a good question. So in this, I feel like this has been definitely more recent years, where for me, I have learned how to invite God into every space of my life. So it's not just good. Like he's a Sunday God, or he's the Wednesday night God if I'm at church, or like just my Bible study God, but like he's the God of my life. And so for me, when I invite him into every single space, if I'm driving and I'm like, thank you God for a green light, that sort of thing, or if like when I'm about to go and talk to my students and I'm just a quick prayer of like, Lord, be with me, I invite you here, like those little things, and of course when I'm leading with Young Life, or even if just like literally I'll be lying in bed and I can't fall asleep and I will just talk with God. And so like in every single aspect of my life, I started by like training myself in a way. Like I made it a habit. I forced myself to do it to like really invite God into every space. But now I feel like it is my life. Like it's that continual conversation where God is every part of my life. And I think for me, I had to learn to not be afraid of the mundane. Because I think as human beings, like we're also caught up in a world where everything has to be like big and flashy, and you show the highlights on Instagram and all those things. Like you have to have these big moments. But I would say like to not be afraid of the mundane is to really say that those things matter too. Yeah. Like they're the foundational blocks of what makes us who we are as humans. Yeah. And so when we can invite God into those mundane things that really are not mundane because it's given by him. It's so true. I think there's so much life in that. Yeah. I think it brings a lot more joy and understanding that life is the little things, the everyday things, and that it really does make us as human beings, and especially as people who are following Jesus, I think it makes that a sweeter journey with him, because then he isn't just Jesus when I'm in trouble or Jesus when I'm suffering, but he's Jesus like every day. Yeah, and in every moment. That's a sweeter relationship. True. You know, it's not so much like when I feel like it, faith. For me, at least, it has become so much of a like this is my life, faith, and I don't know what my life would be like without Jesus, because he's totally transformed it. Like he is your life. Like, I know what you mean. It's like you can't. He's not like a sector. I can't take him out of my part of it, because everything that is in your life now is like built on him. Mm-hmm, yeah, and that's definitely like for sure. I would say again, like just to reiterate, it has not been something that came easily to me. I really had to cultivate that mindset and that intentionality to make him part of everything in my life. But in doing so, I think that God has been faithful to show me how to let that be a natural process. So that now I'm not like having to work for it. But now I'm at a point where Jesus truly is my life.
Yeah.
And I don't have to think twice. Like, I mean, I will go through a green light, not a red light house. I will go through a green light, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Like, and it's like, and I just think it. Like, I don't have to like think, oh, I should say thank you. I just am.
Yeah, that's
and
so good.
It's a green light. Like, who cares?
No,
but, like,
still.
Jesus cares. You know, because it's a part of my life.
That just reminds me of something, because it's like those little things, like the mundane, where we're not often thinking like to be grateful for. It's like having that like natural response of gratitude literally brings you more joy and the closeness to God, because you're just seeing him in everything. Like when you like have that heart posture to like as you formed like out of a habit, like at first it takes like a habit, then it just like becomes truly part of you. Like as you've taken time to like allow God to be with you in every single part of your life, I feel like you just have him on the forefront of your mind at all times, like to see him anywhere and everywhere in everything. Like, and then I feel like that's where like that joy can really flow too, because when you have gratitude towards something and you have like someone to be thankful to, like imagine trying to thank yourself. Like how empty is that? Like,
right, that's
like
true.
Literally, it's so like what? Like I can't thank myself for any single thing in my life. Like but like you can thank like by thanking God and like having someone to like show that like gratitude towards, like just brings also like that flow of joy into your life. And so I mean, of course we can like be thankful to ourselves because we do always have the ability to make decisions. So I'm thankful to myself for choosing Jesus and choosing right over wrong and choosing to live in the freedom that comes in like the commands of knowing Jesus, like for sure. But on the other side, I like that, like to just make Jesus part of every moment of your life. And I was just listening to a podcast. It's Elena Cinciat. Elena.
I don't know her, no.
You don't know her?
No.
Oh, wait, okay, it's called
I'm a podcast person, so I'll listen to it.
Wait, okay, what's it called? The podcast is called, it was like In Me and My House.
Okay. No, not.
Okay. It was like Me and My House, like we serve. Like, that's like what it's called. It's like but Me and My House.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like that verse, like Me and My House, where we serve the Lord.
Yeah.
But it's actually mind-blowing that you don't know them, because everything you just mentioned is what I was listening to on the way here. And they were literally talking about, they used the words creating a hobby or like a habit. They said like talking about like how you have a habit eventually forms a routine.
Yeah.
And they literally were talking about the mundane days.
Yeah.
So it's like blowing my mind that the question I just asked you, like you had this like whole response that was like so similar to this podcast, because to me, when I look at my life, I feel like it is very like I'm doing a lot of things that are not like consistent or like constant, when like as humans like we need that, because life is so like crazy already that like it's good to like literally have like a morning schedule and like to wake up and have a place to be, and like that you can depend on that like during your day, like you know, like there's not like the unknown. Like we need like some sense of security. Like I think security is so good. And yes, like we have our faith and like, but it's so good to just have like parts of our life that we can rely on, and like helps to actually, I think it can almost help you like in your walk with God to like count on him. But the one thing I wanted to say is that it was saying how life, she literally was like, life is the mundane. So she's like, love like the life that you're choosing to create.
That's good,
because like this, like that's the life you're gonna live. Like life isn't always hopping around, going here, trips and crazy events and all that stuff. Like she's like, life literally is the mundane, and I like love that. I'm like, I can't wait for like my life to like settle down. I'm like get married. I'm like move somewhere just super sweet and like simple. Yeah, I just had to share that because
so
I was just
cool.
like,
I'm gonna look that up. Sit up.
I'll share it. Yeah, I'll share the podcast after. So I love everything you just shared, and I just wanted to take a moment to, as we conclude, to just say thank you for being here. Thank you for making the time to be on this podcast.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it has. It's been good. It probably has been like for sure over a year.
Oh yeah,
like,
that we talked about it.
Yeah. And so for all the people listening, I hope that you guys were encouraged by our time here, Julianna. And is there anything that you wanted to share before we hop off?
Ooh, I like the name of your podcast, Best Day Ever. I think that kind of goes back to the idea of the mundane.
Yeah.
Right, like when we can learn to invite, I guess, like the mundane parts of our life to be our life. I think it really can be the best day ever. It's not something that kind of ties in nicely. Like, I think that's a mind shift.
True.
And it's really goes against what our culture would say here in the States.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's true. Like it's easy to say, oh, I'm gonna have the best day ever, but then to live that out is very different.
True.
But when we can have the mindset of understanding that every little thing we do is our life, then it really can be the best day ever.
Yeah.
So I would encourage y'all, have the best day ever.
Oh,
because today is your life.
Whoa, full circle.
Full circle moment.
That just tied up perfectly. Thanks, God. No, I love that. And I just appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Today is the best day ever because it's the only day we have. And I watched the Barbie movie. And I honestly didn't understand what was happening, like the whole movie, but just like the last 5 minutes when it got super nostalgic about life, and like they played this song, and it got me so in my feels, and it just like was a good reminder about. Did you see it? It was just like this. It was like the end of the movie, and then it was just like this like quick flashback of just like, it just like had this nostalgic song, and then it was cut clips of like. That had to be like people's like home videos, and it looked like from like the 60s or early 2000s. It was like moms with their daughters, or like just like kids playing, and it was just like of all these different people of all different walks of life, like all these things playing. And then it just touched me so much because I'm a filmmaker, like I love like documenting life. I'm so nostalgic, and it was like just a good reminder for me just how fleeting life is. And then like because we get so stuck in today, and we think that we have forever to live. And so that's why it's such a good encouragement that today's the best day ever. So it's like, enjoy today, because like when we think we have forever, like we were never told that. So it's like, make the most of today. And it doesn't mean like to do all the crazy stuff, but it's like literally like love the people who are in your life today. Like be like making time for like your loved ones and like all of that stuff. Because like they're only here for like these moments, and like we're not guaranteed that we're gonna have these years ahead to like make time then. Like you have today, and that's it. To just live with a heart of gratitude for life. And so like as you said, as you do that, as you appreciate today, honestly, like God will just like he just will show up, and like it's like if you are like grateful for today, like you're gonna see God, and it's gonna be in this. True. It'll be in the smallest things, but you will get that green light. It'll be like let's go. It'll like make your whole day. And so that's so good, and that's such a sweet way to end. And I hope you guys just enjoy this time, and you should definitely go check out Testify #2 Love, which I have one more question. Where did that name come from?
Oh, that's great. So there's actually a song. It's by Avalon, which is a very old Christian band, like from back when I was in like middle school. But one of their songs is "I Will Testify to Love," and so that was for the longest time. It was kind of like my anthem of like I'm going to testify to love. And so then when in 2020 I decided to create that Instagram account to share some of my poetry, just as a way of expressing like my understanding of God and my conversations with Him. I decided to make it Testify to Love because if anything I do in my life, I want it to be a testimony of who God is in my life and of the love that He's given me and given for us as people in the world. So it's a humble reminder of like if I'm gonna post, I want to post something that is testifying to love, and testifying to like who God is.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. So you guys definitely should go check it out.
Hope you're encouraged.
Yes, like literally, like just by scrolling through and like reading all of her thoughts, you can like see they're like from the Spirit, and like you will absolutely be encouraged. So thank you so much for being here on the Best Ever podcast with Julianna and your girl Liv. We'll see you guys next week on Wednesdays. Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all the things. You're loved. You're chosen. Have the best day ever.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh.
That's funny. We did it.